Ladies and gentlemen, Big Herald News.
Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chewie.
Kia ora, Pat.
Big, hairy, normal-sized news tonight. Not big, hairy, massively expansive, too many people news. Not too many people, lots of people news. Hope everyone enjoyed last night, and yeah, it was a really good chat, and we'll have more good chats on the way. How you doing, Chewie? It's gotten cold. We've got our fire on tonight for the first time. I've just texted my kids upstairs and said, "Can someone please bring their old dad his slippers because
buddy.
I've got cold feet."
Buddy.
And just before we started, delivered to me. Oh, why are we looking at that? Who brought that up? I didn't.
It's something StreamYard's. It's something that StreamYard is doing lately. And look, it hasn't put us back to normal yet either. Whenever
you were
I
trying to
add a
share your
link
screen. Yeah, gotcha.
No, it's not even sharing it. I'm just getting it ready to share, and it just instantly puts up whatever you've queued up. It's StreamYard being a dick. I have spent a rather excellent evening because it is very grey, very wet, miserable, foggy, Silent Hill night up on the hill with me at the moment. But I received that package that I've been waiting for from Murder by Death yesterday. So I sat down and listened to some of these albums that have come out, and it's spectacular. But one of them is a live recording of the show that I was hoping to go to.
Oh, cool.
Next year, and that's obviously not happening because Trump is a madman.
Hang on. It's a live recording of the show. You've got something from the future. It's a live recording of the show you're going to go to next year. How does that work?
They play a show in a cave every year.
Oh. So it's like last year's one.
It's last year's recording.
Gotcha. Last year's version.
It's kind of taken the sting out of the fact that I had to cancel what I was going to. Not that I'm a freak that can see the future, but they have a concert in this cave in Tennessee, and it's coming up in like a month, and I have the biggest FOMO that I'm not going to be there, and I'm not going next year or anything like that, unless
don't say anything
my
about
American friends.
Trump going away.
Oh, you mean the event?
Oh, gee, yeah. No, not the event. I'm not
Yeah,
the event.
No, not unless the event happens. I'm not going to be able to go. But listening to that live recording, which sounds exactly like it was recorded in a cave underground, it sounds phenomenal. It's made my evening. It's been good.
Question about that gig that you just put it back up for a sec. The question about that.
I'll put it back up.
Is they a regular location for gigs? Like, because has it got great acoustics and do they do stuff in there all the time, or is this like a one-off special?
Yep. It is set up as a concert venue. They have other concerts there. This is the Pelham Caverns, which is in the middle of rural Tennessee.
Right.
But yeah, they have concerts, and there's like a campground and a Waffle House down the road, which is apparently all you need. Yeah.
A Waffle House. Cool, man. Cool bananas. It's a bit like Red Rocks, but Red Rocks is more like a sort of a valley of rock, and that's the underground version. Little heads up, talking about breaking the internet, when we put Craig's image up on screen last night and everyone freaked out and couldn't understand why he was running BHN. It's because he was in town yesterday, and tonight he was in Christchurch, and I just got a wee text from Emily who said, just saw Craig and Barbara speak, very good stuff, capital gains tax heavily hinted at. Now, if you want to hear that speech, or that, whatever it is, two people talking, presentation, that's going to be Craig Rennie's podcast this week. So I expect probably before the end of the show, I will receive that footage, and that will be this week's episode of Craig Rennie. So if you want to see what Emily's seen tonight live or hear it, then possibly Friday morning. We normally try and get Craig out on a Thursday morning, but because I'm not receiving it until potentially nowish, it might be Friday morning. But yeah, so that'd be really interesting to look at as well. Huge thanks to our patrons. Just want to say you guys help us and keep us doing what we're doing. There's a bit of merch and stuff going around at the moment. We're right in the middle of stock take. Probably, if I'm fair, by next week we'll have everything up to date. I mean, there's some sold out things and people requesting various shirt sizes and stuff to come back. That will all be handled by next week. The stock take has happened again. Teenage help was used to count shirts and stuff, because what else do you have teenagers for other than mow your lawns, bring your slippers, and count your t-shirts? That's about all they've and clean up after your bloody self every time. So the merch store is open and rocking. We're not doing much with it at the moment, meaning not pushing it very much, but bhnshop.nz if you want to know what's going on there. And of course, to all our patrons, which is what I was saying, thank you so much for being a part of what we do. Patreon.com/Big Hero News if you want to support the work we're doing. And the cool thing about supporting the work we're doing is it's also supporting the work that Craig Rennie's doing, and it's also supporting the work that Gary P. Inder's doing, because we produce their podcasts as well. A 3-for-1, Chewie. It's a 3-for-1. It's a discount deal. How cool is that?
What a savings.
What a savings. And a free set of steak. There's no steak knives. There are no steak knives. We want to make that very, very clear. Tonight, we've got a few bits and bobs going on. Some of them kind of overlap. Karen Chhour spoke with Chlöe Swarbrick this morning on that new Herald live stream show. It's basically BHN on the Herald, except not quite as good looking as us. And also, word around Adrian Orr. Word's been through Official Information Act. We now know why Adrian Orr quit. There's a very short story on One News about that we might have a look. But needless to say, concerns around government funding. We'll look a bit more at that as well. And also, if we get time, we might have a look, Chewie, that there's a big news story out tonight about the massive number of people from the North Island moving to the South Island. This is significant. Although they did show someone moving from Auckland to Queenstown, and I went, is that really a move south? I mean,
that's
really?
Worse.
That's really a move south?
There's traffic in this big city. I really want to swap it for some traffic in a small city.
Yeah. But we might get a chance to look at that. That's a bit of a fun story. And yeah, I did it 10 years ago. Chewie did it on the day he was born. He moved to the South Island. But that's how we roll. And also we're going to have a look at this news that came out, I think, first thing this morning, about these Israeli ministers, all sorts of words, far-right extremist ministers being banned from New Zealand. We thought, because we don't know very much about anything, me and Chewie, as you know, rodeo clowns from the South Island, that we should get an expert on, at least someone who has an informed opinion on this. So we thought Alternative Jewish Voices would be a place to go, and Marilyn Garson would be a person to bring on board. Well, welcome back, Marilyn.
Welcome. Thank you.
So lovely to have you back again. How have you been?
I think, like everyone, I'm trying to hold back the burnout and just be sustainably angry.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was looking at the story today. It's both quite a big story and quite a weird story. And I thought we should talk to someone who knows a bit more about the region, a bit more about the politics in the world, who follows it, who's been involved from living in Gaza. And we'd get you on to have a bit of a chat about it. So I thought what we'd do to start off with, I've got the One News story. It's only 2.5 minutes, but that might kind of give us a foundation for continued conversation. So why don't we watch that first of all, and then we'll get into the conversation. Cool as?
Yeah.
Cool as. Here we go.
Has imposed travel bans on 2 far-right ministers in Israel's government, accusing them of inciting violence against Palestinians. But the move, made in conjunction with 4 other countries, has been slammed by both Israel and the United States. Senior political reporter Benedict Collins has more.
An Israeli raid in the occupied West Bank yesterday. They killed 2 Palestinians, while several of their soldiers were injured. Israel is expanding its illegal settlements here. Now New Zealand has hit 2 senior Israeli government ministers with travel bans, calling them...
And not to stop this story too much already, interesting that TVNZ does identify their illegal settlements, because often the media will say settlements, but TVNZ's made the editorial decision, to correctly identify them as illegal settlements, which in and of itself is interesting, but we'll keep going.
Extremists who encourage violence and undermine peace.
These are two individuals that we think are not helping the peace process, and certainly, most importantly, are encouraging extremist language and violence, and also the settlement of the West Bank, which is a long-standing position, as I've said, under successive governments, that is illegal under international law.
We've joined Australia, Canada, Norway and the United Kingdom in announcing the bans.
Today, we are making a decision also to stand against those who encourage abuses of human rights, also to stand against those who encourage violence against Palestinian people.
The Israeli government has hit back.
It is outrageous that elected representatives and members of the government are subjected to this kind of measures.
Israel says it will announce its response next week. The United States has also condemned our move.
It's a huge shock, and I have a feeling the United States will respond appropriately. And I'm hoping that it will be a strong condemnation of this action on the part of these nations that really we would like to think are our allies.
US State Secretary Marco Rubio called for the sanctions to be reversed.
These sanctions do not...
Interesting again. Marco Rubio that says these sanctions do not advance US-led efforts to achieve a ceasefire, bring all hostages home and end the war. Interesting that he's still kind of saying, what you guys are doing around the world, you're making us here in America look bad. Could you please stop? You know, how US-centric is the response from them.
Two points there. I guess the US-led efforts are ship more bombs.
Yeah.
And then eventually peace will happen. And bring all the hostages home. How many times have the hostages been offered to come home? Like 4 times now?
Marilyn, can you speak to that?
It could have been achieved any number of times. I mean, every time we hear about a ceasefire, what we hear is that Hamas is willing to send the hostages home, but there has to be a real ceasefire. They have to really cease firing those American weapons and withdraw from Gaza. That could have been achieved any time.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has got about 30 seconds to go. Let's get to the end of it.
Advance US-led efforts to achieve a ceasefire, bring all hostages home, and end the war. We remind our partners not to forget who the real enemy is.
Christopher Luxon says we're not backing down.
No, we have a view that this is the right course of action for us.
New Zealand's increasingly calling out Israel's treatment of Palestinians.
Demanding really that Israel allows unfettered access of aid and humanitarian assistance to go into Gaza. You're in a position there where 1 out of 5 people are facing starvation, 94% of the hospitals are being destroyed.
Our government hoping mounting international pressure might reduce suffering on the ground.
For some people who missed the start of the clip, just for clarity, Britain, Australia, Canada, Norway and us have all done this together. And very interesting words from the Prime Minister. I know we're probably going to talk about, if it's about inciting violence against Palestinians, why is anyone in the Israeli government not banned from, like where's Netanyahu's ban, etc., etc. Flip side of that, of course, is, a ban to New Zealand. It's obviously just symbolic. It's not really, oh, damn, I was going to go to Whangarei for my summer holiday. I guess I have to cancel now, says one of these two ministers. Marilyn, floor is yours, first of all, on this general overall conversation around the ban on these two ministers from Israel.
I would start by saying there's nothing in this rationale that could not have been said every day of the last 50 years. Israel is indeed, it has announced, I think, 22 new settlements that would obstruct a Palestinian state. It's true, could have been said any day since, 1967. I think it is significant, though, that this ban is in place during Trump's time.
Oh, yeah.
I recently caught up with a friend from Gaza, Scott Anderson, who became UNRWA's Gaza director through the first 15 months of this nightmare. And he left in January. It's astonishing how much worse it has become since January because of Trump. So it is a necessary step that some countries begin to draw some kind of line on Trump's watch. That's great. But these are elected representatives, and that is part of the problem. Israel's much vaunted ethnic democracy elected this government.
Yeah.
And I'm awfully tired of hearing people ask, who can govern Gaza? I'd like to know who can govern Israel when these are its elected representatives.
It's interesting you would say that, Marilyn, as well, because obviously one of the things that's thrown often back in the faces of the Palestinian as well, you guys elected Hamas, you know, they leave out that it was 18 years ago and that half the population there wasn't even alive when they could have elected them. But what I hear you saying is we're like, well, you guys elected the Israeli government. I mean, you get what you elect. I'm interested, though. You say worse under Trump. Why has it gotten worse under Trump? Is it because Netanyahu's off leash?
I think so.
Right.
I mean, that the big change is Trump's inability to regard the world as anything but his stage. So whatever might have been done before, whatever coordination might have been working before, now there's not even the facade. Now these guys are completely off the leash, and look at what it is they're dreaming of. You know, they're finally getting to live up to it. These people represent two strains of Jewish fascism. I think it's worth just taking one moment to say, we need to be, and Palestinians need to be allowed to say it that way. This is particular Jewish fascism. I and others, we spend a whole lot of time distinguishing Jewish from Zionist and Jewish from Israel, and those distinctions are real. But the fact is, and the Palestinian experience is, of a Jewish fascism, a Zionist, a power project that rides on the vehicle of Judaism. So it takes its own forms, and we need to not make that unsayable. Of these two ministers, cabinet ministers who've been sanctioned, Bezalel Smotrich, the Minister of Finance, he is of the school of religious Zionism, of Tzvi Yehuda Kook. They find cosmic significance in every square inch of what they call Greater Israel. Itamar Ben-Gvir is a follower of Meir Kahane, who established the Jewish Defense League and Chhour. Chhour was recognized by the states as a terrorist organization. It was banned from the Israeli parliament. Ben-Gvir was too extreme to be accepted as a teenager into the Israeli army, but now he's good enough to be a cabinet minister in its government. The reason why these things are worth saying is that neither of these ideologies has breaks. They are about the totality of Greater Israel. They will not moderate themselves. They have to be stopped. So, okay, we've banned them from coming to New Zealand. They need to be banned from holding power.
Yeah. Interesting you had mentioned the word Smotrich or Smodrich. That's the name that Piers Morgan's been talking about a lot in the last few weeks, with his little pivot to, yes, it's a genocide. Yes, they're starving people. Now, we're not fans necessarily of his position in general because he has a lot of work to do. He actively had a conversation with someone the other day going, I don't see how you draw a distinction between Israelis and Jews. So it's like he's got a lot of work to do. But you know, Piers Morgan, some of the other kind of podcast bros in America seem to be on they've finally reached their line. I mean, most of us reached our line literally years ago, but they've finally reached their line, and it seems to have come down to what looks pretty clear to be the starvation of Palestinians. And is it 1,000 days? Just completed the 1,000th day of Israel's stated policy of starvation.
100.
Oh, 100, sorry. 100th day. Yeah, of course. 1,000 would be 3 years. But that seems to be the tipping point for a lot of people. I mean, like some of the things they're saying about these two, as I said earlier, they could say about potentially all of Netanyahu's cabinet, including him. So it's interesting that they would draw a distinction between these two. But again, the world turning, the world that were allies now kind of going, look, we're still your allies, Israel, but you got to stop, seems to be because of the starvation. Would you agree with that, Marilyn? That seems to be their line.
I do agree with that. It sounds so cynical, but I believe it is the pictures as well as the facts of starving children that finally crossed the line. And I believe they are crossing the line also within the Jewish community, parts of the Jewish community, and that, in a sense, allows others to speak, because there are many people who will not speak for fear of harming the Jewish community. But today in the New York Times, Thomas Friedman, a longtime cheerleader of Israel, and they published this in the New York Times, he called Israel's actions in Gaza a widening moral stain. He said that Israel is on track to be regarded as an engine generating anti-Semitism. You know, the mask has well and truly fallen.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's this one here. The Israeli
yes,
government
it's in that column.
I'm not subscribed, so I'll just go back one here. Israeli government is a danger to Jews everywhere. Yeah, it's and I think, I mean, like, even if you just think about what's happening in Gaza, it's like, I know this is very much oversimplified, but if I'm a 15-year-old and a country killed my mum and my dad and my brothers and my uncles, it's not going to engender love towards that country. It's going to breed many more potentially people to fight back. I mean, being blunt, it's driving people to Hamas, isn't it? Because of what have you got left if your whole family's dead? Hey, Chewie, you've been sitting there for a bit. Jump in, sir.
Yeah, I think that column is absolutely true. Like, as much as we can say, yep, cool, I understand that there's a difference between the Zionist regime of Israel, the decisions of its government and the IDF and that sort of thing, and that is their whole bag, and then you've got Jewish people as a whole everywhere else, and of course they can't be held responsible for the actions of a country that they're not in or part of their government. But that's an intelligent way to look at it, and we know that a lot of people can twist these things however they want for whatever aims they want, and there's a lot of people that have traditionally had a lot of prejudice towards the Jews, and this can just give them a tablecloth to cover over the views that they have always had. So that is what it is. It muddies that water. You know, it used to be that if someone said that they hated Jews, you could just go, you're a Nazi. Now it becomes even more complicated. So that's where that's coming from. And I think, getting back to Luxon's comment, as much as I want to go, well, you know, it's a rear Luxon win. Well done. Somebody has told him to say that, and it is so late. And I think it is, he purely has been forced to make a decision because of the other countries that have done so. And it is literally like, these guys are going to do it. If we don't follow suit, it's going to stick out.
I think we got to give him something, though, because there would be one thing worse than him not being late to the party, and that would be not coming to the party at all. Still not being at the party.
So I'm willing to give him something. It is not an award. It is not a Nobel Peace Prize. It is nothing more than a half-sucked lollipop I found on the floor, but he can have that for accomplishing, clearing the lowest bar possible and showing a shred of human decency. It is too long. We still have the Israeli ambassador and his staff here. We still have the Israeli embassy open. It is still there. The only reason to have him here and his embassy open is to summon him every day and go, have you stopped bombing kids yet? If not, why not?
Yeah.
And remember that those steps were ordered, in the advisory opinion, by the world's highest court. There would be no feat of heroism. We would simply be complying with the requirements of the conventions and treaties that the government has signed in our name.
There's something else that I've found really fascinating today. I'm the sadomasochist who's on Twitter, not Chewie. That's where I stay. And I had a look around today, and I had a look at all of the voices. Like, put it this way, Marilyn, parts of this conversation will end up on some of the Twitter feeds I'm about to mention tomorrow. They always do when we talk to you.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Juliet. Juliet Moses, the Jewish Council, Annie O'Brien, Dane Gerard, these people who the people may not know that last name very well, but who are pro-Israel in the face of somewhere between 50 and 200,000 deaths, still saying things like they have the right to defend themselves. And that group of people, and there's probably many more, are silent today. And I'm like, ooh, this is really interesting, because Luxon's their guy, or Peters is their guy. We've got a clip to play later on. We may or may not get to it. If we don't have time, we probably won't. But it's Karen Chhour from ACT talking about a two-state solution. Seymour is their guy. All of a sudden, their three guys are going sanctions on Israeli ministers in one voice. No, it didn't get anyone come out going, oh, right to defend. They all said it. Karen Chhour said it on the New Zealand Herald show this morning. And it's like, this is very interesting to see that group, that online group of Jewish influencers, if I can call them that, or certainly Zionist influencers, not Jewish influencers, Zionist influencers, are silent today. What is that telling us, if anything?
I found a few things very interesting today. The group who did speak today is called COMS, the Coalition of Ministers Supporting Israel. The last time they published a number, there were 65 Christian clergy publishing together as Christian Zionists, and they did speak. And it's worth just reflecting on those numbers. There are, I believe, 5 rabbis in New Zealand and 6 synagogues and 65 Christian Zionist clergy. So anyone who thinks that our government is forming Israel policy to satisfy 5,000 Jewish voters, I think they're wrong. So they spoke. The Jewish Council, distinctly quiet. I think they are not only twisting in the wind because of their political allegiances, I also think they are cornered within the Jewish community now. We understand that they are reviewing their constitution. I believe that some change is coming. Our institutions have been captured, and their silence is an ongoing disgrace. But there are still people within those institutions who have beating hearts, and I believe that their obedience is less and less reliable. The mask, once and for all, has fallen. The emperor, the empire, is just stark, raving naked. Imagine trying to tell a Jewish person that they must uphold some special Jewish connection with any community that conducts genocide and starves children. Imagine it. I feel an immediate and historic Jewish connection with a community that fights the great powers and fights the fascists from behind a wall against impossible odds just to survive. That's our history. So I think the Jewish Council is also quiet because they know, and hopefully because people are telling them, that their defense of this regime has become, it's more than threadbare. They cannot stretch it any further.
And I guess the proof is in the pudding. If they remain silent, then there's kind of no other conclusion to draw. I did want to check with you on one thing, Marilyn. You said 65 Christian Zionist clergies. Is that an official group? Because I've been involved in the Christian church, and there are far more Christian pastors or leaders who are Zionists and that. So what do you mean by, like, there'd be thousands in New Zealand, certainly hundreds, if not thousands. So what do you mean by 65 Christian Zionist clergy?
They, in one of their statements on Scoop, they had an explanation of comms. You know, you put further information about the group that is writing, and they use the number 65.
So they're people who are probably people who are associated with that group officially, sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. No, I was just checking because I was like, that sounds a bit low to me from my experiences. Yeah, Chewie, what else? There's something else we want to talk about to do with something that stuff recently publicized or published. Chewie, what are your thoughts, sir?
I do want to. I want to notice that there's several mentions of, again, reiterating that the two-state solution is the solution. I find this funny that they can try and stuff the toothpaste back in the tube at this point, because that was the solution, and Israel went, okay, fair enough. We're going to keep on nibbling away at the parts of Palestine that we want and encouraging illegal settlers and that sort of thing. Do you think that this is a case where the international community is going to go, at some point, we need to start paying attention to how much you're lying to us? How much you are just saying, yes, we're not going to do any illegal settlements. Come on, guys, get those settlements up. We have been so hands-off on Israel for so many reasons. The Holocaust, of course, the Cold War, all of that. Israel's been able to do the slower genocide against the Palestinians for so many decades. Is this egregious overstepping of the line going to change how people are going, how governments are going to deal with Israel going forward? What are your thoughts on that?
You know, Mike Huckabee, Donald Trump's, I believe he's an evangelical Christian ambassador to Israel.
Yep.
He announced this week that America no longer supports the idea of a Palestinian independent state at all. He further stated that any Palestinian state will be carved out of, and I quote, a Muslim country, rather like Israel was carved out of Palestine. But so I think that the facade will fall, but not for the right reasons. You know, the right reasons would be some statements of reality. Someone years ago used the analogy, Israel continues to talk about dividing the pizza while they eat it. And that's what they've been doing, just consuming and rendering a contiguous state impossible. But it may, in fact, be Donald Trump who finally openly jettisons that mantra. The reality has been for quite some time that there is effectively one state, because Israel is the power from the river to the sea. That's a statement of geography. There's a river and there's a sea. And Israel is the ruling authority under several different regimes.
Yeah.
So surely the only logical thing is to require a dignified conversation among the people who have a right to live in that space, to recognize the state, the nation of Palestine, and require a dialogue about how to govern that space. And as far as I'm concerned, whatever that dialogue produces, I'm all for it.
That from the river to the sea conversation is fascinating because it still comes up with Zionists or people who just don't quite understand everything, and so they take what they hear as gospel. And I always say to people who react to that, I say, what do you say when Netanyahu says it? They're like, what? What do you mean? Well, when Netanyahu says from the Jordan west, guess what the Jordan is? It's the river. Guess what's west? Well, that's the sea. So when he says he wants full control and have full military control from the Jordan west, he's saying that. No one seems to care about that, though. But when Chloe Swarbrick chants it, all of a sudden, it's the end of modern civilization as we know it. It's just bizarre.
Edward Said wrote the best phrase, I think, to encapsulate this, and he wrote it in the 1970s. He said, "The struggle of the Palestinians is a struggle of presence against interpretation. Palestinians are still asserting that they are here. They are surviving on their land. It's called Palestine. That is their struggle. Well, the Zionist struggle is one of interpretation and narrative and politics." That's what's still happening. And it is a plank of the original platform of Netanyahu's party, Likud, says, from the sea to the river is Israel.
But that's okay, because that's the other way around, from the sea to the river. So that's not offensive at all. But if it's from the river to the sea, it's because if going east, it's all spiritual.
It's a harder chant.
By going west is, that's terrorism 101. We all know that. Let's have a look at this article that we were talking about earlier. You had some particular things you wanted to say about this, which we want to give you the space for. It was on Stuff, or The Post, officially it's the same company. Jew hatred is becoming acceptable where calls to globalize the Intifada lead. Can I say, first of all, Jew hatred is not becoming acceptable. Maybe I'm being a bit flippant here, but when people who have been, because of the Holocaust, the worst victims of the worst crimes, then start to play victim where there's no crime, it's just gross. Jew hatred is not becoming acceptable. Anti-Semitism is still one of the most ugly things out there. But this is the article written by Rob Berg, and you wanted to talk to us a bit about the president of the Jewish National Fund New Zealand, because Stuff has posted this with no critical eye. Often if someone be a part of a lobby group or has a particular angle, at the end of an article it would say something about that group. It says nothing. So there's no clarification at all about what we're looking at. I don't know too much about it, but you brought it to our attention, Marilyn. The Jewish National Fund in New Zealand, or the Jewish National Fund that Stuff has publicised, platform, whatever the correct word is, without any kind of critical eye. What do you want to tell us about that?
I think it's a great example of the fact that we are being shown information without media doing the slightest due diligence. Here's what that produces. They call the Jewish National Fund a not-for-profit worldwide organization which fundraises for environmental and social welfare projects. The Jewish National Fund is a very old organization. It acquires land in Greater Israel for exclusive Jewish use. They are known for planting trees. That's their environmental activity, planting trees on ethnically cleansed Palestinian village land.
Right.
And today, through a number of shadowy fundraising channels, they are deeply implicated in the expansion of illegal settlements in the West Bank. How do they acquire land? Just ask Palestinians how they are dispossessed from their land. The Jewish National Fund has been stripped of its charitable status in Canada, and a group called Dawn, which was founded by the late Saudi Arabian journalist Jamal Khashoggi, they have filed a submission with the U.S. Departments of State and Treasury seeking sanctions. The JNF has a $1.3 billion US portfolio of acquired land and assets. So they are an inextricable part of rendering the West Bank uninhabitable by its indigenous Palestinian people. All this takes one Google search. But their New Zealand president can write what he wrote in the knowledge that no one will do that one Google search. That is how uncritical our media are about the Zionist voices they platform.
Did you get in touch with Stuff at all? Did anyone reach out to Stuff about this to share this information?
I believe there is something in the works.
Because you would hope that if someone's, and look, I'll play ignorant here because you're educating us about this thing. If what you're saying is true, then you would expect if stuff has been informed about that, there should be some kind of at least disclaimer on there. It also makes me think if what you're saying is true, again, just playing that line, then what they're saying, what stuff is saying is we will platform anyone. No, we will platform anyone, but I don't think that's the philosophy they would agree to if you ask them straight out. So yeah, why this group? Why this guy? Yeah.
Yeah.
Chewie?
I noticed that our famous fraudster Damien Grant also had a column out, I think end of last week, trying to both sides the entire thing. So yeah, like the opinion space is just the Wild West. Like nobody puts these columns in their context. There's no postscripts. There's no preamble going, hey, look, this guy is the head of, whatever organization they're representing. Like Damien Grant, as an example, holds opinions on whatever takes his fancy. It's not put in the contents of the fact that he's a twice convicted fraudster that deals in financial fucking rip and tear, and that his expertise in the Middle Eastern space may be a little bit lacking. It's a strange space when there is so much nuance, so much context, and so much history to get under your belt before you can actually form a coherent opinion on what's going on over there.
And the opinion goes out, and the correction, if there ever is one, doesn't circulate the same way.
Yes, it's that idea about lies will go around the world before truth gets its pants on.
Yeah.
The correction. I mean, we don't really have the newspaper anymore. What we do, but the correction or the retraction is always on page 7 when the story's been on the front page.
Well,
so, 100%.
How big was the fucking font size after October 7th that Hamas had gone and decapitated or raped babies, thrown children in ovens or smashed their heads against the wall? And that came out months later that it was all bullshit from one dude just making up lies. Now, that doesn't get the same font size. That doesn't get the same push through. There are still people out there that are going, well, the Palestinians brought this on themselves. I mean, the people that have that point of view are completely moral toddlers anyway. But they are still offering that based on the fact that I heard this horrible thing that happened, and I formed my decision on that day, and I'm not going to do anything to challenge that, and I'm not going to consider any proof that anybody brings me. This is the space that we operate in.
Yeah.
And this is the space in which Palestinians are trying to cope. And that's, I don't know how we're doing for time, but there is something else that I would like to say about that.
Sure, go for it.
Absolutely.
I guess to honor the 100th day of Israel's policy of starvation, I caught up with a friend from Gaza yesterday. She now lives here, and we agreed that I would tell this story. So I have confirmed the numbers. This friend sent $1,000 American to their family in Gaza to buy food for the coming month. So that's roughly 1,650 New Zealand dollars plus fees. In Gaza, the cash broker handed over only half of the money. The fees are now 50%.
Wow.
And a part of the reason for that is that Gaza is physically short of paper cash. One of the less understood facts of UNRWA is that UNRWA was integral to the liquidity in Gaza and to the actual movement of paper money. So there is now an additional problem obtaining cash. The price of 1 kilo of flour at the moment is 100 Israeli shekels. That is $47.42.
New Zealand dollars?
So, New Zealand dollars.
Okay.
So my friend's brother received 825 New Zealand dollars. With that, they purchased 10 kilos of flour and 20 small tins of tuna and of beans. That is the food to feed a family of 6 for the coming month.
Wow.
That's ground truth.
How do you wrap this up? I don't want to be flippant. Let's go, where to from here? Like, what's next, Marilyn? What do we need to do? I mean, I feel like one thing we need to do, me and Chewie, is we need to hear some more of these voices. So I think we need to talk to you some more about connecting us with other people to hear some more of these voices. But for the rest of us sitting idly by in our comfortable spaces with our big screen TVs and our tummies full of food, what do we do?
I think I've really been trying to understand how to be sustainably angry. Because, we die a little with this news.
Yeah.
But you can't just be angrier and angrier and angrier, you burn out. I think there are two sides to this coin. To be sustainably angry, you need to relentlessly focus on the real actions. You need to turn up. We need to turn up the pressure on this government to take the steps that you've already outlined. And we need to make it a one-term government. We do that by linking our issues and turning up for others. And we need to think about how to disrupt the real financial and diplomatic supports of this occupation. That's the positive side. But at the same time, we need to refuse to be misdirected, to have our energy wasted. And two of the most common ways that we are misdirected is by getting caught up with internet hate, robots, trolls. It becomes an exchange of insults. It has nothing to do with Palestine any longer. Might give you a moment of feeling like you have vented, but it's not real. And by falling into racialized explanations, you miss the real sources of financial and political support. So it's time to just relentlessly focus on what is real and refuse to be distracted. We need this to endure so that we can stand by Palestinians who are enduring it so differently.
Marilyn, thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you for receiving my text message today and jumping at it. There's something as well that's happening out there that not many people will be aware of. Maybe not you as well, Marilyn, but these stories don't, quote unquote, rate well. And one of the reasons they don't rate well is the big internet companies don't want them showing up in their algorithms. It makes me think, I don't care about it rating for us, like, ooh, what a big video, it doesn't matter. But it's one of those things as well that, the BHN whānau in this capacity needs to get these clips and stories and conversations out there. This will be uploaded at 6:30 a.m. tomorrow morning as an independent clip on YouTube and Facebook, and then it will be cut up into clips over the following few days. And I guess what I would like us being the BHN whānau to do right now is get these stories out there. The story about what it's costing to live in Gaza. And the algorithms don't like them because the algorithms hide this kind of information. It's very clear to see. It's unambiguous. So I hope that what we can do, Chewie and I, Marilyn, is have more voices on. And I hope what we can do, being the BHN whānau, is help get these stories out there more. So thanks for joining us tonight. Yeah, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Thanks.
All the best. And I'm serious about that, team. Like I keep an eye on what we do online, and I look at the numbers and that kind of stuff. And always with these conversations, it goes like, we don't get massive numbers, but we're typically in the thousands of clips, like 1,500, 2,500, 5,000, 1,500, 1,200. Then one of these stories, 250, 250. Like, honestly, it's just, it's impossible not to be that. I'm not a conspiracy theorist who goes, oh, well, they're trying to hold us down. These stories are what they're trying to hold down. And I've had a look the other day, even on Piers Morgan's feed, even though they're massive, there is a definite dip down when it talks about Israeli issues, even though he talks about that all the time. So that's just a little thing that we can do out there, you guys can do out there, is help get these stories out there. Chewie?
So I want to frame that a little bit for everyone. Obviously, social media algorithms will show you things that you have expressed interest in, or that your friends have expressed interest in. Here we all are, smart people interested in what's going on in the world and sitting on the left. Social media does show us what we need to see, or what we want to see. So we're seeing it from friends. We're seeing footage from Gaza. Certainly I've seen way more dismembered babies than I would ever hope to see.
Yeah, I saw them the other day. I just came up into my feed, back of an ambulance, two dead Palestinian children. And part of me wants to show people in my house, like, look, this is what we're talking about. But then most of me goes, you guys don't need to see this. I've seen it, unfortunately, but you guys don't need to see it.
So think about this. Those images that you do see are getting to you in spite of the algorithm.
Yeah, true.
The algorithm is absolutely combating that. It is trying to make sure that you don't see it. The news media are not showing it. Certainly they can't show some of the images that we will see on TikTok, on Reels and Instagram and that sort of thing. No matter how much you share it around and you go, are you guys crazy? Do you not see this? Do you not see that this is monstrous? You know, that catch cry of, if you ever wondered what you would do if you knew the Holocaust was going on, yes, you do. It's what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Like that I think is one of the most devastating things that I've seen come out of this. But what you see, these companies, these social media companies, are trying to make sure that it doesn't get to you. So how much are we not seeing?
Yeah,
that's terrifying.
Very good. Very good, Chewie.
And I think if there's one thing that I want people in the chat to take out of the conversation that we're having tonight, the reminder of there has been no pause, no slowdown in this. This has been as clear-cut a case of genocide that we have seen in my lifetime. It's up there with Rwanda. It's up there with what happened when what was the countries that came apart and they had Christians and Muslims hitting each other with sledgehammers and streams. And the UN was involved. The UN got involved in that one. We keep on saying that it's not enough, but we need to put pen to paper, hammer out an email, something, but point it at Winston fucking Peters, because he's finally realised that he's been shamed into doing something, and maybe we need to add to that pile.
Bosnia, Croatia, Kosovo,
Bosnia, thank you.
Yugoslavia.
Brain went on holiday right when I needed it.
Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
Let me just add one.
Horrible.
Let me add one little thing. And when we showed this article, I was like, it's not becoming acceptable. Now, when I say that, obviously there are horrible anti-Semites out there where amongst themselves, they think it's acceptable. But what I'm saying is, in general population, amongst this headline makes it look like, oh God, everyone hates the Jews now. Like that's what the headline makes it. And it's cool because of this spray paint, which was probably done by a 16-year-old somewhere in Wellington who thought that it was funny because they have no frontal lobe and don't understand the context of what they're doing. I had an interesting conversation this afternoon with someone as well, Chhour. This may or may not be a part of it, but we were talking about offering an opinion. And the person I was talking to, I won't say what it's about, but offered an opinion on something. And I said, how did you know that? And they were like, well, X, Y, Z. And the reality is the person didn't know if what they were saying was true or not. And they were talking to a group of people that they typically disagree with. So let's say, for argument's sake, someone on the other side politically. And something that we have to be really careful of, right, is who we side with. And I think this locates back to the Jewish Council and that kind of stuff and Luxon. And we have to be careful, and I'm saying we as in all of us, right, not to side with people who are saying similar things to us, but the reason they're saying it is because they're anti-Semites. And the reason we're saying it, and I'm not saying it would ever be exactly the same, is because we want to see children in Gaza stop being killed. You know, that whole enemy of my enemy is my friend. No. Anti-Semites are not friends. No. We'll never be friends. And we need to, we all of us, maybe I'm talking most to myself, need to be careful that we don't inadvertently, mistakenly get alongside people or share people or amplify people because they're saying things that sound like, yeah, of course, yeah, and Netanyahu's doing these things, but they're doing it because they're anti-Semites. Big difference and something to be really aware of. Chewie.
Yeah, my support goes with oppressed peoples everywhere.
Yeah.
The cold fury that I have for the actions of the Israeli government, the IDF, and the people that support, that know what's going on over there and are okay with it, is completely detached from the fact that people and the world are Jewish. Not all Jews support this. There's a lot of Jews that are putting their bodies on the line to stop it, that hate that this is being done in their name.
In fact, I would say more than not, Chewie. If you actually added up the Jewish community around the world, I would bet dollars to donuts that more Jews are pretty annoyed with what Netanyahu's doing than are supportive. I don't have the stats for that, but, you know, listening to a lot of profile people who are Jewish and where they're sitting and what they're saying, and looking at the polls in Israel, you know, I'm not saying it's 100% one way, but I would get, I'd place a wager. I may be wrong, but I'd place a wager. Let's get to some super chats. Kiwi Bird says, welcome back, Marilyn. Marilyn welcomes, you're welcome. As a non-Zionist Jew, thank you for running this. Thanks, Tiffany. Peter says, US soft power has collapsed entirely.
Absolutely.
Peter also says New Zealand should cancel the Israeli working holiday visa. I was thinking as well about these two diplomats. I'm like, and I just booked that batch in Tihana for the weekend. Now I can't come. It is a little bit of theatre because like they're never coming. But you know, there's more. Sorry, Drew.
I'm very clear the fact that we need to send the Israeli ambassador and his staff home. We've done that before.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we're not sanctioning the Israeli regime in the same way that we're sanctioning the Russians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a Russian ambassador in New Zealand at the moment, or have they gone home?
There is.
There is. Okay, well,
there is.
Maybe there's a few people that need to be showing first class on an Air New Zealand flight. Maybe. Tiffany says, DC shills crying. Love to see it. TK? It's time to cut off diplomatic relations with Israel. And Kiwi Bird says, that's my secret, Pat. I'm always sustainably angry. Good line. Good Marvel line. Well done. I picked it up. All right, let's get to cruising, shall we? Unless there's anything else you wanna rap about to do with that.
I have one other thought there. I saw someone talking about the absolute money funnel from America to Israel.
Mm-hmm.
It's something like $10.3 million per day
per minute
goes from the US to Israel, and it needs to be pointed out to the American people that Israel has universal health care, free university education, all these other things that are denied American citizens.
Yeah,
it's a rort. It's a rort.
All right. This is a quick story. It's only 30 seconds, but it's a really interesting talk topic. There was some Official Information Act work done today around Adrian Orr, the Reserve Bank governor, who bailed with 3 years left on a contract. I think it's pretty fair to say this government weren't that stoked with him. It feels like he was a bit of a hangover, and I don't know if they were big fans of his work. But if you haven't heard yet, let's not spoil it for you. Why did Adrian Orr chuck in probably what is a lucrative job and comfortable job when he still had 3 years to go on his contract?
It's been revealed the reason Adrian Orr abruptly quit as Reserve Bank governor in March was because of a disagreement about funding. Internal documents released under the official...
You'd never think anyone would have had a disagreement with this government on funding. I'm so surprised.
Information Act have confirmed Orr didn't agree with the government's moves to cut costs. The bank saying in a statement he, quote, could not continue in that role with significantly less funding than he thought was viable for the organisation. It all followed a meeting with Finance Minister Nicola Willis in February. Orr stepped down with 3 years still left in his second 5-year term as governor.
So, I guess we have to say Orr reported that the money that the government was saying, here's the Reserve Bank budget, was not enough to keep the Reserve Bank going. And so he quit, which then bodes the question, when we look back at what the Reserve Bank has done in 12 months from now, will we see an underwhelming output of information and work because Orr was right and there wasn't enough information? Or will it still tick along as per usual and he was a bit of a drama queen? But real interesting, Chewie, that you think about people like the governor, Don Brash, governor of the Reserve Bank, these kinds of people kind of not chucking their toys for no reason, if I can put it that way.
I mean, to pull your contract that quickly, I think that spoke to an absolutely untenable relationship with the government and specifically with Nicola Willis. And I mean, like, you're a money guy. You deal with the economy. It's all numbers and that sort of thing. And then in comes Nicola Willis with stuff that you know is not workable. Theory that has been disproven. How do you work with that? And I think it's a point of going, well, I can fucking chew on my desk for 3 years, or I can just get out of here. I don't want to hitch my wagon to this.
Yeah.
So whatever his reasons, I think it's dramatic. And certainly that news, that happened in the space of days. He was talking about going to a presentation or something a couple of days after, a couple of days before he quit. Yeah, that he was going to be at this thing, and then he wasn't. So I don't think this was planned. I don't think this was expected, and I don't think Nicola Willis really cares. He just probably saw him as a road bump.
Yeah, perhaps. There are people in the chat talking about he seemed pretty happy to help National, lowering OCR and making their numbers look better. But like, even if that was the case, that makes it even stranger. Like, even if he was on, I mean, like, you would hope the governor of the Reserve. I remember interviewing Helen Clark for an election, and it was just after Don Brash had become leader of the National Party, and his previous job was governor of the Reserve Bank. And I said to Helen Clark, what is it like going up against someone who for the past, whatever it was, 3-6 years, you have been talking to about financial issues as the governor of the Reserve Bank? And she actually went, yeah, it's really weird. It's really weird. And what I saw in that is that position should be, and probably is most of the time, non-partisan. But then Brash came out and became very partisan. And so I would hope that Adrian Orr just, played a straight bat, and obviously realised playing that straight bat, you're giving me $200 to pay my mortgage, and my mortgage is $300. Ain't going to work. Don't want to borrow it. Goodbye.
I think it's worth pointing out with Don Brash, apart from the fact that he's an animated skeleton that's fueled on hatred and bigotry, his term as Reserve Bank governor is generally across the board, both sides of the aisle, regarded as one of the best Reserve Bank governors that we have had. It's strange. It's like, man, just go back to your calculator and stop coming up with race theory.
Yeah. Then he ruined his, what do you call it when you leave a lineage? He ruined his reputation, whatever that word's called. Ruined his, like what's his name? The mayor of New York ruined his, I can't think of the word. Oh, did I spark something?
You said the secret word that triggered my new story. You said the word mayor. Did you see that the mayor of Chhour, the Trump of the North, is not standing for election? Is not standing for the mayoralty again. That's good. That's a pinprick of nice news.
Yeah, there you go.
He still
Nobby
has
Clark
plans.
Has Nobby Clark gone yet?
Oh, Nobby Clark is not standing. That is another one. So we're down two morons. Gypsum up in the north, he still does have plans to stand as a councillor, and one of his missions is to remove all mangroves from Northland in its entirety.
Good luck with that, mate. I grew up in Northland, holidaying up there, and you have about 1,000 mangroves per capita, per unit base, per singular person.
The man, look, he's a very driven person. He hates Māori and he hates mangroves.
But not, maybe he only hates mangroves and he just can't pronounce it properly and he just thinks he hates Māori. Maybe that's what it is, or the other way around. Not to mention, of course, mangroves are an incredibly important ecosystem to the estuaries of Northland. But you know, that whole green thing, tree hugger, that kind of stuff.
A mangrove beat him up as a child, and he will have his revenge.
Maybe he's homophobic and he thinks a mangrove is like some kind of sexual act, and he wants to stamp it out in Northland or something. I don't know. Maybe. Oh, Chewie, should have seen the mangrove I got last night. Poof, I'm tired this morning. Could be. No.
Well, you've ruined that ecosystem for me there, Pat.
Yeah, Chewie, the number of times I've had a mangrove in my ecosystem, bro. If I had $1 for every mangrove in my ecosystem. Well, remember, we're now work husbands aren't we, after last night's show? Isn't that official? Isn't that I don't know.
It's not that you didn't give me that ring.
I could do the dance. Hey, let's look at Chloe Swarbrick and Karen Chhour.
Oh God, that's a horrible matchup.
Really?
My God, really?
You want to do it?
Really?
Let's have the Herald's version of BHN.
The Herald version.
The big Herald News. Call them that. Big HN. Big Herald News. I think that's what they call it.
Ryan Bridge,
we should Photoshop the B and the N in the background there. They did talk about Gaza and they did talk about the ministerial sanctions, but the other thing they talked about was taxing the rich. And I have to tell you, this conversation is so dumb. Ryan Bridge, like, well, they've worked really hard. Why should they be punished? And Karen Chhour, it's just to envy. Like, honestly, if it was a different word, if it was a different time, I'd probably use a particular R word about this conversation, but I won't. So I'll just say it's utterly redonkulous. That's the word I'll use, redonkulous. And I want you all to have to suffer through it because I fucking did.
Because we had the rich list come out and we had Graham Hart, I think, was second, and we had the Mowbrays up the top with billions and billions and squillions of dollars. And Chlöe says tax...
Squillions of dollars, Chewie. I didn't realise.
We had the Mowbrays up the top with billions and billions and squillions of dollars. And Chloe says...
Can I ask a question? Is this officially jazz hands? I might have to edit this and make it go backwards and forwards a few times.
We had the Mowbrays up the top with billions and billions and squillions of dollars. And Chloe says tax them. And Karen, you say not. Why not?
Look, I mean, there's always going to be people...
So it's a fine question. Why don't we tax the rich? The uber rich? Karen Chhour, why not?
That are successful in this world.
Yes.
And we need to start celebrating success and actually teaching people to strive for success and not to feel ashamed of it.
Right.
The other part is that when we have success...
So apparently the Mowbrays, with their helicopter pads in the Waitemata Harbour, they're ashamed. That's what she's suggesting. They are ashamed of their billions.
It's really hard to be ashamed when you're in a helicopter.
Yeah. Ashamed.
But they managed it.
We can stop being ashamed. You billionaires out, please, billionaires, like, just be kind to yourselves. Go and spend some of your money. Stop being ashamed of your money.
For success and not to feel ashamed of it. The other part is that when we have successful people like that, they create jobs, they create opportunities for those.
Bullshit.
Trickle down economics. We need to have a competition for someone to make us a trickle down economics sting. And every time that comes up, we just push a button and trickle down. Because I mean, I think Chloe does say it, so I won't stand on her toes. But 40 years to show us how this works, Karen. Hasn't happened yet, Chewie.
How many New Zealanders do the Mowbrays employ?
Yeah,
their products made here? Are they developed here somewhere? No, they're made in a factory in China, aren't they? Probably paying people 30 cents a day. It's bullshit. It's always been bullshit. Billionaires shouldn't exist. They should get to a limit and then go, well, that's enough money. The rest can go on charitable stuff if they want, or it should be forcibly taken to them under the threat of pain. It's ridiculous.
I did this today because I was interested. You know, Nicole, what's her name? Schlesinger. She used to be one of the Pussycat Dolls. Used to go out with Lewis Hamilton. She won a Tony overnight for a role she's playing on stage. And I was, because I got caught into the thing, I looked up, and she used to go out with Lewis Hamilton. So I looked up Lewis Hamilton, and I came across what his net worth is. I'm going somewhere, Chewie. His net worth is $450 million. So not even $1 billion, which means he's 40. He could not earn another cent, spend $1 million a month for the rest of his life, and still have money. And that's a half billionaire, right? Because that would last 45 years, or 40 years, I think it was. And we did this the other day with Musk. It was some ridiculous amount, like $1 million a day or $1 million a week or whatever. And it was like 950 years. And of course, obviously what I'm saying is, and not earning another cent, of course, if you had $450 million, you're also getting interest on that. So you actually wouldn't ever run out of money. It would keep on building up and keep on building up, keep on building up. Yeah, so it's, so to say, you know, I mean, I've never really said, or I haven't really thought through, we don't need billionaires. I get the concept, but the point is, you can never spend it. Unless you're Donald Trump and you figure out how to make two casinos go bankrupt. The only place where they say the house always wins and you can make them go bankrupt, if you just stopped and started spending millions of dollars a month, you'd still have money left at the end of your life.
It's not envy. Nobody's saying these people should be ashamed or they shouldn't be successful. It's just the way that we've chosen to, well, the way that Karen here has chosen to recognize their success is a massive pile of unspendable money that somehow we can't go, hey, you know, this country that you grew up in and you currently live in, we want to make that better for everyone, and you seem to be doing really, really well. This rich list has increased in these economic conditions. When everybody is doing it tough and the fucking government can't find enough money, these guys have increased their wealth. The fact that billionaires exist is an ethical and moral failure on behalf of the state and on behalf of the people with this money. The more money you get, that you just go, I've just run out of shit to spend it on. Now it's space rockets, or maybe buying a government. That shouldn't happen. In the past, it has been the peasants are revolting. They're kicking in the front doors of the palace. We should have seen this earlier. Why is this something that has got rampantly out of control throughout the West since the 1980s? It's neoliberalism. It does not fucking work, and we need to put the brakes on it. This is fucked.
There's one thing I was going to correct you on. You said that they've chosen, Karen Chhour has chosen. Karen Chhour doesn't choose. She chooses. Just remember, Karen Chhour has chosen. That's it. There we go.
Have a drum roll.
To be doing better in their life. I mean, I grew up in a lot of poverty, but never did I blame others for being successful for my poverty. What I did do was look up to those people and think, wow, this is...
Lie. Sorry.
Nobody's saying that.
No, but hang on. Yeah, but you're telling me as a 9-year-old sitting there in poverty, you aspired and looked up to the person driving the BMW driving. Sorry, I don't buy it. No child thinks like that. I do not buy it. My bullshit nerve is going off. That is my honest help.
Such a bullshit line.
Yeah.
I could achieve, and worked really hard to achieve that. I mean, it is difficult, it is hard, but to sit there and envy people for being successful, I think is what's wrong with this country at the moment.
Chloe, did you grow up in poverty too?
Stupidest question ever asked in an interview by Ryan Bridge. I think the podcast awards next year is going to have stupidest question ever asked, and that's up there.
That'd be nice.
Because whether it's active or not, what are you saying, Ryan? That Karen's got a better story to tell because she grew up in poverty, and if Chloe didn't, it's undermining. What's the point of this question?
I grew up in, I guess, a caring family where I had opportunities and parents who did everything that they possibly could for me. But I think that if we remove ourselves...
tax people who are that rich or richer?
Well, I think that this is a matter of systematic fairness, right? This isn't...
But you think we should tax people who are rich or richer? Yes. In fact, we should probably tax almost everybody. So yes, we should obviously tax people who are rich, if not richer. They should just be taxed a bit more. So right. Yes. What's the answer to that question? Right? When you ask a question where the obvious answer and only answer is yes, what is the point in asking that question? Sorry, Chhour.
I was just going to say, Ryan, buddy, come here. How much tax do you pay? I bet it's about 30 cents on the dollar. These guys pay an effective tax rate of 9%.
9%.
Now, we know that because the IRD did a study. Previous government commissioned it. It was important information that apparently everybody had forgotten to look for. Now the IRD has been told to disregard it. We're not doing anything about it. But that's the thing. We're sort of going, oh, leave these poor billionaires alone. They've worked really hard. They've created jobs. Everything is politics of envy. It's because it's not fair. Like, they're going to go, oh, but they pay so much more tax than I do. Not as a percentage, they fucking don't.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't need it because their wealth keeps growing. And what they're doing with that wealth is making more and more political donations to entrench this privilege that they have got now. Like, if we taxed the Mowbrays properly, they would still be obscenely wealthy. They would still be able to put fuel in their helicopter. We are not sending them to the fucking poorhouse, or my personal opinion, into an industrial grinder.
Speaking of that, I told you guys in the last few days that I'm going to get someone on. In America, it's called Millionaires for Humanity. In New Zealand, it's called Sharing Wealth. We've had them on before. I've made contact with someone. I won't reveal who it is just yet, only because if it doesn't come together, I don't want to kind of out them. But I've confirmed one of the signatories to Sharing Wealth coming on. Probably end up being next week. Let's get back to Chlöe because she's laying some truths.
That rich or richer?
Well, I think that this is a matter of systematic fairness, right? This isn't about envy. This is actually about looking at the facts. So the facts tell us from an IRD report from 2023 that the wealthiest people in this country pay an effective tax rate less than half of that of the average New Zealander.
Because of property, right? Because of property. Because we don't tax property.
Well,
and that's our biggest asset for most of us.
If that was the reason, we can change
for most of us, Ryan. Right. Most of us. Are you including the billionaires? Are you one of the us?
I think
you
so.
Want to be?
He goes to their lunches.
Right, because of property. Because we don't tax property.
Well,
and that's our biggest asset for most of us normal, mere mortals.
No, but more so than that, Ryan, because of the fact that wealthy people are able to arrange their finances in such a way that they can hire the lawyers and the accountants to hide their wealth and not pay fairly
so let's
towards
tax
the
them.
Society that they have earned this wealth from.
Let's tax the bejesus out of them. Let's just say that
yes.
as a starting point.
Yes.
To pay for lots of things that I don't doubt are worthy.
Like hospitals.
What happens to them? Do they stay in New Zealand, Karen?
Oh, they'll find other ways.
That old chestnut.
To use their money, and we're seeing that.
Just to get back to what she said, have a listen to what she says, because what she's actually saying is the system is broken, and if we try to fix it, they will be nefarious.
Find other ways. They'll find other ways to use their money. And we're seeing that out in our communities, because you'll find that our richest people in this country are actually quite generous when it comes to charities.
And look, I'm sure there's many rich people out there that do very good work with charity and they give money away. But also remember, sometimes it's not just altruism. Sometimes it's they get a kickback from that. They can write it off. They get to stand up and receive a special plaque from someone that they can put on their wall that their businesses can then promote. Let's just be real about it as well. Many of them, I'm just saying, they'll do it because they do it, but not all of them. Just not all of them, that's all.
I'm going to use an example. It's not a person, it's a corporation doing an undeniable good. I can think of two examples. New World doing the recent promotion of food bags for needy families. The customers come in and they buy a food bag, which then gets donated to needy families. New World don't need your help to do the same thing. They could just do it with their super profits that they generate, and then they would get a nice big fat tax break. But this way, they get both. They get the customers to do it and a big fat tax break. McDonald's, undeniable good. Ronald McDonald House. They ask for donations for that. They don't need to. They could do it. McDonald's, one of the most wealthy corporations on the globe. If they wanted to do it just for good vibes, they could fucking do it. But they want you to donate. It's fucked.
You know, I hate it when I have to kind of explain something back, which is the thing about New World is I think they've also got a 300,000 or 300 million or $3 million fund that goes on top of that as well. So they are doing some other, I'm just giving them some accurate stuff. It's not just the donations from the shoppers. There is something else. I don't disagree with your point, but you know, I'm a bit of a stickler. If I can be, I will be accurate. I'm sorry. I apologize for trying to be accurate there, Chewie, because your point is still valid. Cool? Cool. Here we go.
If you look around this country at the moment, charities are screaming out saying that their donations are dropping because businesses and people who are working really hard to get ahead, actually, when we propose taxes and when we propose costs like this on them, the people that miss out the most are the people that they're trying to help, they're trying to build up, create jobs for, and that they're helping.
So what she's saying is there's a cost of living crisis, so people don't have that extra $10 to give to a charity. But she's using it as an example to talk about how we should be treating the wealthy better. Because I'm going to Google it. I don't have the numbers in front of you, but I almost guarantee, pick a charity, Tier Fund. I almost guarantee that the majority of the donations given to Tier Fund are not coming from rich billionaires and millionaires. They're coming from thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of families, individuals, school kids getting together 10, 20, $30 a week. So Karen Chhour's just said charities are missing out on money, right? I'm going to do the research because I want to be correct, but I feel pretty confident that this is probably going to be the case. What she's saying is the cost of living crisis is so bad that the average punter that normally supports these charities can't afford to support them. And what's the result from that in this conversation? That we don't tax the rich. How about you fix the cost of living crisis like you fucking promised before the election? Then charities will probably do okay again.
This is
Chewie?
such a cooked argument. That she would literally mention that food banks have noticed that their donations are drying up while she's talking about the ultra wealthy that have donated more money than ever before to her party and the National Party to get favourable terms to make sure that we never touch this. Like, we can't do anything about the billionaires because they'll be fucking nefarious about it. They're already being nefarious about it by funneling an ungodly amount of money to the parties that are going, we will give you your money back plus more and never ask you for anything. There are two things that need to happen in this country and ultimately in the world as a whole. Food banks shouldn't exist. Billionaires shouldn't exist. And I bet those two things are fucking related.
Just
I'm a
as
bit heated, Pat.
A quick Google search, NPR, poor are more charitable than the wealthy. I haven't had time to read through it in its entirety
Shocking.
yet. Yeah, so poor are more charitable.
People that
than the
know
wealthy.
poverty and know what it's like to be on the bones of their ass are more empathetic to people in a worse off situation. While these fucking lizards on their pile of money that have never given a fuck from day one just continue to give less fucks because they've never been in that position.
So the position
Envy, Karen, rage.
the position that Karen Chhour just took, which is like, well, you know, these rich people, charities are losing money. They're not getting as much. And these rich people need to have more money to give to charities. My first look into it, poor are more charitable than the wealthy. So as I said, fix the cost of living, Karen, like you guys promised, and the charities will probably see an upswing from that. Well done.
in the communities.
I think the thing, I get it if it's intergenerational wealth that's been handed down and no one's had to work for it. But if you look at the two most wealthy in New Zealand, Graham Hart's business, he started with one truck by himself and then leveraged the hell out of his business in order to grow it. Took on huge personal...
yeah, but based on the system he was able to do it with, and the system as part of society, the roads that he drove down were paid for by public. You know, like, there's all these things. No one gets there by themselves, right? No one. I remember Barack Obama getting quite criticised because he said something like, you didn't build those roads, and it came off like the wrong way. The point is, you cannot get wealthy. You cannot start, even with nothing, and build it without a whole bunch of... the ecosystem around you being provided by the taxpayer for nothing. So when you use that ecosystem, whether it's a road to drive on or a health system to fix you when you hurt your back or whatever it is, when you get to the top of the pile of money, then what you can do is give back to others. You know, you leave that ladder down so they can use that hospital or that road or that school, part of the New Zealand schooling system or whatever it is, to then try and do theirs. Their attitude is, don't tax me too much because I don't want kids to follow in my footsteps. All of those advantages that you had as a kid, as a young adult, all those write-offs you got at your from IRD at the start of your business, all of those things all lined up together were benefits that you got from taxpayer dollars. Now that you've made it, how about helping out a few more people try and do what you did rather than just having it be the minimum you can give? Just fair. I mean, like, I think you said that, didn't you? We just want it to be fair. Just fair, right? No, F-A-I-R. It is F-E-A-R.
Make it fair or start to fear.
But that's the thing. It's like you didn't get there on your own. Even if you're a self-made man or woman, you didn't get there on your own because you used a lot of public assets along the way that all of us paid for. How about you help paying for the ones for the next 50 years, for the next person to get there on their own, self-made man or woman? That's all. Sorry, Joe.
Can we consider that a lot of the people on that rich list made a lot of their money scooping up public assets at bargain basement prices at the end of the 80s? And have just cruised on that ever since.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you put this. I'll tell you right now, this will never happen. Put Graham Hart in front of me. I got one question: how much is enough? When are you finished at the banquet? When do you go, no, I don't need anything else now, or the money that I do own, I'm going to change the world for the better? No, you're just going to funnel more money to the fucking National Party. And we still exist in a country that makes as much food as we do, and we have food banks.
Yep.
Do you walk past people on the street that are sleeping in doorways of empty shops? You know that kids go to school with no shoes and no dinner. You know that there's such deprivation in this country, and then you can open up your bank account or your investment portfolio and you can honestly look me in the fucking eye and tell me that that's fine. Envy, Karen, rage.
All right, we're going to try and get to the end of this clip now, Chhour. We're going to shut up and let it play
before I pop.
Debt and burden and stress and sacrifice, no doubt, for him and his family. And as for the Mowbrays, they were reportedly spending $1 to $2 a day to survive when they had their business.
Probably getting money back from the government when they had nothing. You know, that whole kind of social welfare. Probably getting benefits of some sort thanks to the taxpayer. Let's put some back.
I've never wanted to take $1 or $2
What do you say to those types, those entrepreneurial types who perhaps didn't start from a privileged place?
That there's currently 500,000 New Zealanders who are needing to access food banks every single week, that we have persistent rates of child poverty, and that we can address those things if we choose to make sensible decisions to invest to end those issues. That requires a fair tax system. We've done it in the past when we were confronted with some of the worst atrocities known to mankind in the 30s and 40s and the Great Depression. We decided to institute public healthcare, public education and public housing by taxes on those who had profited handsomely during a time of hardship for many. This is about understanding that that poverty and homelessness doesn't come from nowhere. It is directly created by tolerance of mass inequality. And these billionaires currently in quite comfortable positions and should be contributing to the society that they have made that wealth from.
Look, we don't need to be slicing the pie up smaller. We need to be growing the pie.
I just actually want to address that.
Oh, God.
I just want to.
David Seymour, like this is part of their, what did we get told last night by Mihi? Their practical course before they become MPs. I guarantee that's a chapter.
From people to give to others.
We've had 40 years
to encourage this country to become more prosperous by encouraging success, not dragging those down that are successful.
That's beautiful rhetoric, but it just doesn't play out in reality. We've had 40 plus years of the squiggly line of GDP going up, but so too has homelessness, inequality, poverty. And in order to address those issues, we need to understand that it doesn't matter how big an economy is, what matters is how we share.
Chloe Swarbrick, Green Party co-leader, and Karen Chhour, Act Minister on our...
There you go, Chewie. So, yeah, that's going to be pretty much us for the night. I think we've both had a bit of a foo blow there.
I believe that we should all agree that Ryan Bridge should be melted down for his component parts. I know the amount of product that is in his hair would probably be worth a reasonable amount on the open market.
Yeah.
And I'll just replace him.
All right. Sounds good.
Because that'd be a very different interview, Pat.
I'm fascinated to see if that program continues on at all. I mean, like, you know, it's if anyone, we are aware of the work it takes to do sort of a daily news-based show. They will have producers and stuff behind the scenes, but it's going to be interesting to see how long that sticks around.
I mean, I know it's the Herald, right? I know it's the Herald. I know Ryan Bridge is talking to his own congregation, but there was a dreadful interview. Like Karen Chhour just plops out rhetoric and fucking buzzword phrases the entire time, and they say what, 2 questions to Chloe, then never let her finish.
Yeah, she knows though. That's why she goes hell for leather. Hey, yeah,
absolutely.
We're gonna wrap it up now because I'm fading. Arvid says, does Ryan slick his hair back with oil? I was going to say, Chewie, you said it's probably some quite expensive product in there or whatever. It probably would power a small town for a night or two as well. Kiwi Bird, success equals sucking the profits away from workers. Ryjan asks, is there going to be a new leftist collective sometime? There probably will. I'll be honest with you. I started up this leftist collective thing hoping that there would be an uptake by several people and kind of co-ownership, and have kind of been told that, no, Pat, you should run it. And that's one of the reasons there hasn't been many of them in the last couple of months, because
We're doing this all the time.
I'm making 3 other podcasts, or 3 podcasts, as well as doing this one. So
that's hilarious. Yeah, maybe you should do more.
Yeah. So if there's someone watching who's been on the leftist collective who wants to help me run it, then yes, there'll be more of them. There will be more of them, but just being honest, this is my priority.
Would you say, Pat, that you've been working really, really hard on this?
This BHN?
BHN, yeah. Would you say you've been working really, really hard?
Yeah.
There you go. You've all heard it. Pat's a billionaire. We should tax him less, because otherwise he'll cry or go to a different country.
Emily says, just have to say Chloe's skin is looking great in this interview. Not sure if it's a lighting or LUT, L-U-T. Lux, is it like the, is it luxes that you have the lights? How many luxes is your light? Yeah. Or resolution, but looking great. Vampire Matt, great name. Can't stop the rich from avoiding their fair share, so let's do nothing. Yeah.
The story of the last 40 years.
Kiwi Bird says, read Matthew 17, 24 to 27. Jesus pays taxes, bejesus. Peter says, Peep should watch a doco called The Corporation. Sure. Mata says, if they pay the same amount as the rest of us, we wouldn't need their charity. Hey, good one. Like that one. Dave says, survivor bias on success. Ignore those who failed. Yep. And Arvid's, Pat, just work harder.
Just work harder, mate. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
I don't wear boots.
I like it. You know how we sometimes talk about phrases that just lose all meaning, like the customer is always right, those sort of things.
Yeah.
pull yourself up by your bootstraps as another one of those classics. It was used as an illustration of someone doing an impossible task.
Right. So you can't actually do it. So if you lie on the floor, I'm assuming you're literally supposed to grab your straps of your boot and try and then pull yourself up.
Yeah.
So you can't.
You can't do it, and over time that meaning has been reversed.
Yeah.
As like someone who just manages to do it against all obstacles has pulled themselves up by the bootstraps, and it's meant to belittle people that don't. It's
very good. Hey, thanks for tonight, team. We're going to leave it there. I know we had that little story about people moving to the South Island, but it's not a news-centric one, so maybe we'll chuck it in tomorrow night if we want to get there. Or else maybe we've decided we don't want to tell you guys, so no one else moves down. But it's
well, I'm closing the gate. It's part of our master plan with the ferries is to stop people heading south.
Yeah, and apparently the planes can no longer fly over that body of water. You need a passport to get here.
The plans.
All right, guys, we're done. We won't go into too much silliness now. We'll probably just end up catching you all tomorrow night. Do I know anything about anything tomorrow? I don't think I know anything about anything tomorrow yet. So I guess you'll just all have to tune in to find out what the show's going to be about. Chhour,
help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work at what they can't afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a war path to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All heavily either this way or that, and we'll be analyzed by both Chewie and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's Big Hairy News.
One of my favorites, favorite chats. I wish we all had YouTube in the 1990s. Yeah, life would have been different. That's it for me. That's it for us. There's nothing else really to say other than see you tomorrow night from 9 o'clock. How you doing, Chewie? Anything else you want to mention? Anything else we get out there?
2 things. If you haven't done your submission, now's a really good time. Tomorrow could be a momentous day. Russia is tracking to go over the 1 million casualty mark in Ukraine.
Wow.
1 million casualties.
And a huge thanks to Marilyn Garson for coming on tonight. And remember, guys, the algorithm doesn't like that conversation. I'm just being honest with you. I know it doesn't, so it's up to you guys to spread it around and let people know. Whatever platform you're on, you can head to YouTube and share this stuff around, or Facebook, and let others know about it, because the algorithm don't want them to know about it. We'll catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News. Hooroo.
Cheers, fam.